Hello, hello. I really want to do this justice. I want and hope I have enough time because often my kid, my youngest, Michaela Sue, wakes up. So let's see. What if being unapologetically me is exactly what sets someone else free? For those of you tuning in, maybe this is your first episode. Maybe you didn't go in order. Maybe you're going backwards. I want you to know that I give my whole heart so others can show up as their true selves, loved without limits. I'm Melinda, your host at Unapologetically Yours. And today's episode is Boy Meets Girl. And I was very intentional about that title. When I met my husband, we were very much adults. Man meets woman. But our friendship and our courtship was very much innocent and sweet and pure. Boy meets girl. So it's a sigh. I sigh a lot. I used to sigh a lot. Do I still sigh? I mean, I just sighed, so I guess maybe I still do. I sigh a lot. I do. I was thinking so many things just in that moment. I'm very grateful to the man that I met. To the man I met who tapped in to God, to the youth in himself, and who saw me as a woman, but tapped in to the youth of me. It was very different. It was very different from any other thing I've experienced, any other relationship. And yeah, sometimes it fascinates me. So like my mind is kind of just, I don't know, swirling around as I'm thinking about, even teenage years. Actual. I didn't really date too much. There was a lot of insecurity that I had growing up. I very much had an awkward phase. I my my parents were strict, and there were things I my hair was cut when I was in about 7th, 8th grade, around there, because I didn't bring home a progress report. And turns out I had it. I literally did not have it with me, but I had it. It was very upsetting. This is not where I was going to go with any of this. But this is where my mind went, and so my hair was cut, which there was a warning about it, and yeah, I won't go too deep into that piece. So I basically had like a weird fro. And so my dad's black, my mom's white, and there's different hair. There's different hair depending on ethnicity, right? And I had a weird mix, and probably leans more towards Caucasian type hair, but it's not that at all either. And so anyway, it was super short and it was just awkward. And then I had big plastic glasses, with a colored tint. And I had braces, and I saw pictures of me and I was smiling. Like, I still was able to smile after that. It was a traumatic event for me. But awkward, okay? And yeah. And then I went to high school, and I remember this one girl, she claimed anyway that she had multiple boyfriends, like 3 boyfriends, and one was buying her a pager. Yes, I'm that old. Pagers and whatever. And then guys would ask me, and they would tell me things like, "Oh, well, it's a question. How many boyfriends do you have? You must have a lot." And I'm like, "Well, can you introduce me to one?" Like, I remember those conversations, plural, and it never dawned on me, I guess, that perhaps they thought I was pretty enough to, first of all, pull a boyfriend, much less multiple. I remember crushes. Cute guys. My friend Melissa, my 20, she and I would gush over certain guys, My childhood best friend was there with me in high school. And anyway, so just like thinking about the days of my youth, So, fast forward. Gosh. During the time that I met Jacob, I just watched a video, okay? So I'm just trying to wrap it all in here, and I can't believe I'm like this far in and haven't even gone into this piece. So I just came across recently our wedding highlight reel. So there were a couple things that were important to me for our wedding day. One was photography, and I used a guy named Emmanuel, and he's from Italy. And then I wanted a videographer, and I used a guy by the name of Jonathan Thorpe that I also met in church, and our video is amazing, and he's done stuff before and after. Ours is still my favorite. And so in this video, y'all hear my ice machine? Oh my gosh. I didn't turn it off this time because I'm in another room. But anyway, oh my goodness, I lost my train of thought because of the ice machine maker. So, I watched the video, and it's so moving, like the music and really our story. And so, one of the things that was said in the video is Jacob says that when I met him, it was at church, and I asked him what he did for a living, and he said tree service, which, by the way, he still does, 13 years later. And I said, "Oh, well, I need tree service." And then I chime in and said that I thought that we met at Thanksgiving. So on Thanksgiving, I had a baby with me, my baby. And the thing I guess that my mind is trying to find is, when I met him, had I already given birth or was I pregnant? So I definitely am not going into that story, but when I came back to the state that okay, I'm in Florida, y'all. Do y'all know that already? I mean, obviously people who know me know I live in Florida. So, um, there's a lot that's going on in my brain right now. I'm, there's so much. There's so much. There's a lot. There's so much going on. I have a lot on my plate. And it's a good thing. These are like exciting things. I've got so much. I'm married with 3 children. I have this podcast. I'm authoring a book. And I have meetings. And I have dreams. And I have plans to build a nonprofit. And I've got friends and family that I think about and want to help. And so, anyway, super detour. Like, this is probably something I'm not going to edit this out. I don't know, I'm in this weird headspace. But I just did capture my eyes as they're swirling around, roaming the recesses of my mind. They began to roam the room, and I still have actually my wedding photos up on the wall. Okay, so that tied me back into boy meets girl. So I became a Christian, like truly, in my mind's eye, truly, when I was 21, October 19th. And I had prior to that been baptized as a teenager, and I thought I was a Christian, and but my life didn't change, right? And so did it, did I really commit to the teachings and all these things? And so when I was 21, I absolutely did. And had new friends and lived life. And there were several points in my Christian walk that I left church. I believe the first time it was the grief, the loss of my mother, about a year after she passed. I was angry, so angry. And during that time, I didn't care about that stuff. In fact, there was a sermon, and the person said, "Oh, well, you signed up for this." I was like, "Okay, sign me out." I logged out. But it became very clear that there was nothing for me, if you will, quote, quote, in the world, right? And God wasn't gonna let me just do all the things or be crazy or be out there in them streets. And I came back to Him, really. And the sermon that I heard that day was also pivotal and instrumental, and the person that spoke talked about grief, actually, and his loss and how hard the year had been. And I came back. So another time I left was my spirit, the spirit, God's spirit in me was just really disturbed by the things that were going on in church, things that were allowed by leadership in church. And I had this feeling, if you know the verse, you understand that the lampstand had been removed. New Testament's actually Revelations. Revelation, singular, I think. I don't know, is it plural? It's been a minute since I read that book. And so I found another church. And I was so happy there. It was great. Oh man, the teaching. Ooh, chef's kiss. Mwah. So good. So good. I can't even. It was so good. And then something happened with my best friend and her husband. And I was angry again. So much rage. And I felt like I hated him for what he was doing. And he was had been a very good close friend. So angry. And this thought came into my head. It's, based on a scripture. Like you can't love God if you hate man, something like that. If you hate your brother. So at one point I thought of him as my brother in Christ because he also was baptized and all that stuff. Was he a Christian? I don't know. It's not for me to judge and make that determination. He has since passed away. God rest his soul. But at the time, because I really wasn't locked into that church, I left because I didn't want to be a hypocrite. That's very important to me. And so I left and wound up in a couple relationships, one of which was abusive physically, and that was hard. That was difficult. And I lied to myself in that relationship. I put blinders on. I didn't even remember those parts, the bad parts, the getting hit parts, the getting thrown across the room parts, the violent parts. And I only remembered the good stuff. So weird, so bizarre. And there was a song that was so beautiful, and I convinced myself that he was the personification of this song. And he was not. And I shared the song with someone else, like, oh yeah, this is who he is, and it was just not the truth. God, for me, is the personification of that song, and the song is He Heals Me. And so, after that, there was another moment of violence where I thought I would not be around anymore. He took it to that level. He choked me while his parents were upstairs in my house, in the room upstairs visiting. And that, first of all, that wasn't even the last thing, but there was a moment there that I realized, oh, okay, I can't do this. I can't be with him in that way. But some other weird piece of me that was like, oh, well, Well, one, let me recoup my money that this joker done took from me. Money spent. Like, okay, well, you're a horrible boyfriend, but I've seen you be a friend to other people, and so maybe you're a good friend and you can live here and you can pay me rent. Shortly after that, there was another moment. I was out of state, and I drove home. So I moved to California after that to get away. I also was having a hard time at work. I was on disability. There's a lot of stuff. And while I was in California, I was building a relationship, I thought, with the person who is my son's father, my firstborn. And I visited him, and we had a very bad breakup. And unbeknownst to me, I was pregnant. And I didn't think I could get pregnant. I was 33. And of course, immediately, yes, I'm keeping this baby, this miracle that I never knew I could have. And I flew back to California, and I wanted to keep it a secret forever, but I didn't. And then I wound up back in Florida, pregnant. And so that's when I actually started going back to church, to the same church that I spent my young adult years in. And I started studying the Bible again as a restoration to God. Not really even to God, because I felt like during that time of my pregnancy, I was in communion with God, even while I was pregnant, out of wedlock, super sin, if you will. And it was really more of a restoration to the body, to the church. And that was a really good experience, that connection, and just even seeing how much deeper I needed to be, I desired to be closer to God. And so I was presented before the church. I spoke, and I also apologized, because when I left, it hurt people, it impacted people. I was taking my light that I think I'd been giving to everybody and taking it away from them. Boo! So the light was back, and yeah, so I'm in church, and I'm pregnant, and I don't know if I met him when I was pregnant or after I'd given birth. There's my alarm. I thought I would be done, and I have just started this story, finally. So we met. I thought he was good looking. He sang. I'm laughing because he would wear bow ties, like that was his style. And so he looked very I don't know, is that 50s? 1950s. And he had the deep voice. I love bass. Oh my gosh. And on Thanksgiving, I'd been invited because his brother had recently had a baby, and the mother would be there, and it was an opportunity for us, she and I, to connect as new moms. And yeah, so our babies are 5 days apart, and now they are cousins in marriage. It's pretty cool. So About a year after my oldest was born, I started attending the single ministry events. And it wasn't about dating, it was about connecting, it was about being involved. And at one of these meetings, actually dating came up, going on dates. It's so cringe. Some of the stuff is so cringy. Ooh. So I can't even really touch that. Nope, because nope, you almost like have to be in it to like understand. Okay. So anyway, Jacob said some things that was different, and I wanted to know more. And his roommate at the time had invited me to his birthday party, and so I went there, got a babysitter, and lo and behold, I walk in late, and there's a seat, or there's an opening at a table, if you will. Maybe they brought a chair, and so I was able to sit down, next to Jacob. He went by Jake at the time. And so he was excited to see me, to chat, and it was mutual. And so we talked, and I asked lots of questions, and he felt probably like it was an inquisition, and he still liked it. But he and I walked away with two very different ideas. I walked away and I pulled out my phone and started making phone calls. I will never date this man. And that was a wrap. And so he got put into a friend zone. I mean, I still liked him, but I was like, nope, he's not marriage material for me. Because I am big, and I am loud, and I am bold, and I want a microphone. And at the time, I didn't know anything about podcasts. Probably, I don't even know if that was a thing. Was it a thing back then? I don't know. Do your research. I definitely pictured myself potentially at the pulpit, not as a minister per se, evangelist, pastor, every denomination has different things, and every non-denomination too. Anyway, and so it was clear that his traditional upbringing, there were thoughts that, and it was backed up by a Bible verse, that women should not be in that position. And so I was like, nope, he's not for me. And yeah, but the person who was leading my Bible study group, or I don't know, family group, would almost always choose to join his group, and I was along for the ride. And so we spent a lot of time together, and we really became friends. And I think that was by design. And what I mean by that is divine intervention. Even the fact that I put him in the friend zone was God's love for me, because had I known I liked this guy in that way, I would have likely pursued him. I would have reverse engineered the roles. I absolutely do believe a man in his masculine should pursue a woman in her feminine. It is the design. It is science. It is chemistry. It is all of those things. It's how they're built. And society has changed a lot, and what's I don't want to say acceptable, what's normal. Things have been normalized that are not normal, and there are a lot of men or male people who are not in their masculine, who are in their feminine, who want to be pursued, who want, you know, I don't know, an entourage of women sending them messages and asking them out and cooking them dinner, and all of the benefits of a wife without the benefits and of husbandry and, ill. And there's a lot of hurting people too, in that space. And yeah. So God protected me from all of that because, I became just an innocent girl again, I guess, and I really liked him as a friend. Like, we had so much in common, and it was enjoyable. Like, he would look for me, and when I saw him, I would probably light up. I enjoyed our little pockets of time to chat, and then there would be church events, and he would find me. There was one in particular where I've got my playpen, I've got the baby, I've got the stroller, I've got all the things, bags and bottles, and probably a chair as well. And here he comes to help me, and then we started talking. We started talking, and the conversation went south fast. As I mentioned before, his brother had a child who is my son's age, 5 days apart, and there were things that he was experiencing as a single dad. And so my husband is his big brother. My husband is the eldest of 3 boys, and now all grown men. And of course, he's on his brother's side, right? Which in this conversation wound up being the side of the single dad. And as a single mother who was having my own experience, which was not always pleasant, that meant that the conversation was a little sour for me, because I was very sensitive to the position as a single mother and not being treated the way that was right for me. So, anyway, he noticed that he crashed and burned, but he was still determined to make amends. And so he carries all the stuff to the car, and he is not giving up this pursuit of me in friendship. And he may not have been thinking at that time of dating me, but he definitely was wanting to be my friend. And he continued to do so. So that's January, like, whatchamacallit, it's like Martin Luther King weekend, because the church was doing a flag football thing. So the first date that we ever went on was months later, and it was Mother's Day weekend. And Ingrid and DeAndre, thank you guys, they took my baby. They watched him for me so I could go on this date. And Jacob's roommate was dating his now wife at the time, and so it was a double date. And we went to a restaurant. And I'm smiling because I'm remembering that's a whole story. Should I tell the story? This is going to be longer, and guess what? I'm going to have to pause this. I'm going to stop it. You won't know that I've stopped it. because it'll be very seamless, because I'm just going to hit stop and then I'm going to hit record because I got to get my kids up and ready and food and stuff. And I thought, I didn't know it was going to go so long, but you guys are getting more. So you're welcome. And also, by the way, you can pause too. You can stop. You can, go to work. Or finish up your lunch and just catch up later. And that's okay too. But so let me tell you, so we go to this restaurant, and it's a Spanish restaurant. I think it might have been, no, I'm not going to say the name. So we go in, and we're seated to the left. As you walk in, to the restaurant, right? To the left. This becomes important later. And this is why I'm not saying the restaurant's name. And so, we're given menus and we're talking, and it's great. It's like a double date. And then we put in our order, and then we're talking, and then the waiter comes back and gives us our check. We had not been given our food, but he gives us the check. And it's like, oh, that's bizarre. And, we're like, okay, all right, no problem. Just go with it. And then more time passes and we still don't have our food, which is bonkers. And the thing about it is, apparently, those who know, the locals to that area know, you don't get seated on the left side, you get seated on the right side. And the right side, the service is really good. That would never happen on the right side. So we eventually got our food. It was a disappointment. It had been probably sitting under warmers or whatever for forever, because we were there forever. All right. So next piece of our date, we went downtown. Did some sort of like gelato type of thing. And there was a like an industrial kids playground type thing by the Children's Museum. It's probably shifted some. So we were there, and boy meets girl, we had so much fun. We talked about so many things. We talked about Wonder Woman, and her invisible plane. Yes, please. And so many things. It was fantastical. It was so fun. And I gave him a card, that was probably it. Could have been a Saturday. I gave him a card the next day, Sunday, like a thank you, and maybe I'd be willing to do this again thing. I don't know. There may have been hints at that. I feel like I definitely posted something on Facebook to him as a thank you tribute. Might have even been a poem. Oh my goodness. And then he did not ask me out on another date for months. Really, our next date. Okay, so I'm remembering this other thing. There was some confusion on my part, because apparently we did have a date that I didn't think was a date, that everybody else knew was a date, except for me, that I did not even claim was a date for probably years after that. But based on the amount of time we spent together, it was definitely a date. But in my mind, our next date wasn't until October. So it's 5 months later. But in October, it was very clear. Yes, I liked him. Yes, he liked me. So I'm going to take care of my business. It's 7:00, and I'm going to come back to the story. Yay! And hopefully I will remember, because I do want to tell you about the date that was not a date to me, which was also quite fun. All right. Got the kiddos off to school. Was that seamless? I don't think it was seamless, because I accidentally pushed a button and had to find the end. Anyway, I was talking about going on dates, right? Jacob had asked me around Mother's Day Oh, and he gave me beautiful flowers. It was so sweet. And then I mentioned that our, to me, next official date was October. But prior to that, he and I had been talking about movies. So we are both movie is it aficionados or aficionados? Aficionados. So I I love spreadsheets. I love spreadsheets. And so I had one. I had an Excel spreadsheet and it housed all of my movies. Okay? Name, genre, probably running time, and there may have been one other thing. Alphabetical order, but that I could also sort and change, by genre. So what am I in the mood for, right? And so somehow I got his movie lists. And yeah, anyway, I put that on a spreadsheet too. And we were talking about having a movie night, like a whole bunch of people. And so I had ever had people at my house, a whole bunch of people, and we watched a couple movies, which was fun. And so we wound up speaking, and he asked about it not being that big of a group thing. So maybe just me, him, Vicky, and David. So I was like, okay, yeah, that works for me. And it worked for them, which was great. And we had a movie marathon. And when I legitimate marathon all day long. So at the time, he lived in Clearwater. They were in Tampa. And I can't remember if we met at the grocery store. It was Winn-Dixie at the time. Or if they came to the house first. Let's just say we met at the grocery store. It doesn't matter. We were at the grocery store at some point in the early morning. And we made a game out of it, right? So the whole thing, there's lots of competitions, different stuff. It was so much fun. And it was great. So we split up couples. Okay, yes, and still it didn't dawn on me that this was a date, but we had a grocery list, of things that we wanted to get. Popcorn, snacks, beverages, and we split the list up and, run around the grocery store, get back, buy it up, come back to the house. And I believe we watched 6 movies. We watched Kill Bill 1 and 2. Yes. We watched, I want to say it was Last of the Mohicans, but it may not have been that. But it was something like that. If that wasn't it, we may have seen a cartoon movie, maybe? I don't know. I've got pictures somewhere. I had a whiteboard, because I also like whiteboards. And markers. I remember when I used to work for the bank and mortgage. My friend Gladys, hey girl, she was in my wedding too. She called me a frustrated kindergarten teacher because the markers and the whiteboards and all the stuff. So I had a whiteboard out, welcome into this movie day. And then we just did crazy fun stuff. And we had food breaks and all that stuff. Ooh, yeah, we went to Gino's restaurant. I ordered some pizza. I feel like, oh my gosh, I hope I'm remembering this right. I feel like I would have done that. So did we do it? I don't know. Did we go pick it up? I don't know. But it was a fabulous day, until, towards the next morning, 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, something like that. And man, it was fun and carefree. And Oh, it was so good. So when everything was said and done, David and Vicky, they were newlyweds, and so the intention was she was going to stay at my house, and Jacob, who lived in Clearwater, would stay at their apartment. But I was like, that doesn't make any sense. I don't want this married, newlywed couple to have to split up, So I offered for everyone to stay at my house. Like, I had plenty rooms upstairs. And so Jacob was not having it. He was very adamant about, nope, I'm not staying here. So I was like, okay, fine, bye. And it was Vicky who helped me to see the reason behind it. And I don't know if we talked about it that night or if it was the next day. But I was confused, and then she spelled it out for me. Ultimately, he really was trying to protect his and my purity. He did not want there to be any hint of anything that could be looked at by anybody else outside as inappropriate, or there would be no temptation of, knocking on somebody's door. And he, when she told me that, I think my mouth dropped open, and I was like, oh, okay, great. I mean, yeah, awesome. And I felt a little less bad for her to be away from her husband for one night. So we also just started talking, just the two of us, and she was like, well, what about him? And as you know, I had already put him in the friend zone. And what you don't know, though, is that, what is it that you don't know? I was going to tell you this piece, an experience, sort of like a spiritual, crying, emotional time. So what I said to her is, you know what, I'm going to stop saying no to God ultimately, and I'm just going to stop saying no. Like, if this is the plan, you know what I mean? If this is divine intervention after, years of hurt and disappointment, who am I to tell God no? Right? But the part that I was saying that you don't know is there was a time as a single mom that I was hurt. I thought my son's father and I would have a happily ever after based on things, based on stories, based on whatever. And it was very painful for that not to come to fruition. And there was a point where I was grief stricken, and I'm in the same living room that I was in when I cried out literally to God, just boo-hoo, mourning, wailing, and I asked God to give me a blood transfusion and a heart transplant. And there's some poetry behind that I'm not going to get into, but I just begged and pleaded for a new heart and new blood coursing through my veins. And I think that God answered that prayer. And I think that God protected me from my own self by positioning me to basically, I think he put scales over my eyes. I think he blocked a certain view. And when Vicky and I talked that morning, the next day, that was sort of a first step. It was very much like Saul going to Damascus, and the scales were removed, and then I was able to see so much beauty in the friendship that we had established, Jacob and I. And one day I looked down at my phone, my text messages, and I had an Android phone at the time, and it used to like clock how many messages you had, and there was 999 messages between he and I, which is a lot, right? And this was back in the days where, I was getting like large phone bills because data, it wasn't unlimited data. And I'd be playing Scrabble with this guy, like he's whatever. And I had to stop. I had to shut that down because it wasn't worth my bill. But so 999 messages, I see that and I'm like, oh wow. So I'm like, oh okay. I know that that's a lot, okay? But surely my best friend Michelle, we have a lot of text messages. We probably had like around 200. And I was like, okay, well, she's always at work, so what about my guy best friend, Siam? And we had more, maybe double that, but nowhere near the 1,000 text messages, right? So I'm like, that's pretty intense. So I send Jacob a text message saying, oh, look, wow, I just discovered we have 999 text messages between us. And then I do not hear from this man for hours. And I was like, what have I done? I start second guessing my whole life because he is not responding. And so, he's working. But, every now and again, I don't know if he had a break or lunch, we would communicate, obviously a lot, we were sending videos to each other. It was glorious. It's so amazing. That's actually featured in our wedding highlight reel, which is so cute. And this man does not say anything, so I am panicking, like sheer panic. Oh no, what have I done? I have driven this man away, is what I thought. Nope. It must have just been a really long, hard day. Couldn't be by his phone. And so he wrote me back, and the relief. So I would also send him emails. I would send him emails, and they would be long, as you can, like, just think about how much I'm talking. I can talk with my fingers too. Just long emails. But he would write me back, and it was so good. And I remember one of the things, he made it very clear that I had his full attention. Oh yeah. Ooh, it felt so good to read those words. It was so awesome. I would send him silly videos, so just hilarious. That, I loved how normal he was. Like, he wasn't weird. And I say that, do I go there? So there was like church stuff. Let me just, I'll touch on it for a second. I wear like tank tops, right? Like, tank tops. And there's this whole thing, for the sake of purity, which is not, anything to scoff at or whatever. But there was this whole thing where it was really driven towards the woman. It's the woman's fault if a guy struggles with his purity or has some sort of temptation or whatever. It's all the woman. What was she wearing? Oh, you can't wear this, and your shorts have to be this length, and all those things. Fine. But it was like you couldn't wear a tank top, because someone might struggle to see your shoulders. Well, this guy, he was not weird like that. He wasn't struggling over someone's tank top. But I would I would I would have a tank top on because I'm comfortable. And then I would put socks, like my kid's socks or his shoes, and he's like 1.5 or something. So I'm putting shoes into the shoulder straps of my tank top and to hide my revealed shoulders. So we got plenty laughs over that. Um, yeah, just fun, silly stuff. And oh man, it's so great. So, so we had this movie date thing I told you. Then Vicky sort of drops the thing. Oh, he's thinking about your purity and trying to protect you. And I'm like, okay, that's another level. And then I've said, well, I'm not going to tell God no anymore. And then the scales are open and I see the 999 text messages and I have not scared this man away, which is amazing. And then he asked me on another date, which is October. And that was also a great date. We played cards. I think I taught him how to play casino. And it was a good date. And we were out till late, but we're grown adults. But then there's also this thing of, oh, it's past the time that it's supposed to be, But on our date, so like we had a date, I don't remember where we went, but afterwards we went to Starbucks. That's where the deck of cards gets pulled out. I love cards, I love movies. And then we're talking and we are sharing deal breakers. What is a deal breaker for you? Clearly me being a single mom was not a deal breaker. That was great. And, just back and forth. And it was very clear, you're feeling the other person out. And then we had this, like a camp trip, like the church would do. And so it was it the first time I ever camped? Because I'm more of a glamper, And so there's a young lady named Nava that wanted to go camping and her mom had all the gear. So I was like, well, I'll take her. And of course, JD, my baby at the time, and I don't know, he's probably about 2 at this point, 2 years old. And we go camping and I've got video of that too. JD, we'd wake up in the morning and he'd be like, good morning, where's Jake? Where was I going though with the camping thing? So it was around that time, so that's November. And Jacob was there too, the whole church. And we spent a lot of time together. I did wonder if he was going to ask me to be his girlfriend. He did not. And then, time is just going on. We're communicating. We're sending each other videos. And there's something in my heart and mind that I feel like I have to tell this man that could be a deal breaker. And interestingly, as we're having this conversation, he's saying that there's something that he feels like he needs to tell me. Now, we have not told each other what the thing is. Get advice. The advice is go ahead, go for it. And then we meet one night and share those things. And yeah, very vulnerable, very the ball is in your court kind of thing. And neither of us had a problem with the other person's thing. So that was a green light. And so the camping trip, yeah, I think the camping trip was before Thanksgiving because he actually asked me out to be his girlfriend after Thanksgiving. So he went to Miami to spend time with his brother for Thanksgiving, and they call it scratch giving because they made everything from scratch. And we're sending videos, okay? So he's sending me videos. I think his brother is doing the guitar in the back. He's singing to me. It's glorious. And he's also making homemade butter. So he's got a mason jar with heavy cream, and he is shaking that thing until it turns to butter. And my roommate at the time was home, it's Thanksgiving, and we've got our own thing going on. Do I save him a plate? I know he brings me a plate. I actually ask him, please go ahead, bring that food on up here. But I'm seeing all these videos of him cooking and whatnot, and I turned to my roommate and I said, I'm going to marry that man. That's when I knew. And so after Thanksgiving, he came up, brought me a plate, and we went out for dessert. And we went and had ice cream, and he presented me with a letter that he wrote, which was a poem, and it was like my butterfly friend, and he asked me to be his girlfriend. But there's this part I didn't tell you. So remember the date in October where we're talking about deal breakers. This is very important. I said, whoever I date, I am not going to kiss him until my wedding day. And I was adamant about that. And he was like, oh, okay, that's cool. So fast forward, November 30th, he asked me out, and we're walking from the ice cream shop to the parking lot where his car is, and he reaches out his hand, and I put my hand in his, and it's the first time ever that we've held hands, and it's so wonderful and sweet and good and exciting. Like, it was exciting to hold hands, and I'm like 36 years old, and just the hand holding was exciting. It's just nice. It's good. Boy meets girl. So sweet. And fast forward a couple weeks in, I'm hanging out with my guy friend Siam, and he calls me, so we're talking, and Jacob wanted me to know that he did not want me to try to kiss him first, right? He was like, hey, when it comes to this, please, like, let me lead. And I was like, whoa, buddy, hold on. I don't think I said buddy. Remember that conversation we had some weeks back? I don't want to kiss until I get married. And he was like, oh, okay, that's even better. That's great. And that was that. And I know that my friend Siam, who's only hearing my half of the conversation, is thinking, what in the world is happening? What kind of weird conversation is this? But it was the base of everything. It was great. And what I loved about dating him in this way with that boundary established was it took all of the pressure of performing away. There was no like anxiety about when is it going to happen, or is he going to be a good kisser? Am I going to be a good kisser? And it shut down a lot of the other hormonal activity, like, because you're not even going there. And it just let us be free, just to learn more about who we were and become deeper friends. And because we were dating and we were adults, and it was this whole, I'm not even going to kiss you until we're married, it definitely was dating for the intention to see how will this pan out. Like, we liked each other, we wanted to be exclusive, and the intent again is this could lead to matrimony. And so because I was a single mother and some other stuff, there was a woman in the church who was like a counselor, is a counselor, and we really just kind of dove in to looking at premarital counseling. And I don't know how soon we did that, but I feel like it was pretty soon. And so we did this book, something like 100 questions you need to ask before you get married, which talks about childhood stuff and parenting and all of the things. And so we did that with her, and we dated, and it was great. We had more frequent dates, thankfully. And yeah, and we dated for 9 months before he proposed. And we had planned, I wanted him to meet my family in California, and so we had planned a trip out there. And he was going to propose to me, and he moved up the timeline because he wanted us to be able to talk about it on our trip. It was like, no way I'm going to California with this woman, cross country, and, basically like have a ring in my pocket and just not be able to talk about it. So it was a beautiful engagement. That's actually in our video. It's on YouTube. And so we were engaged. We were fiance and fiance, and went to California. So great. And 2 months later, we got married. And this November will be 11 years. 11 years. Yeah, 11 years. It's so interesting just thinking about people who've been in our lives, in and out is a very good thing. There was a person who was not happy that we were dating, and who sat me down and told me we were not going to make it, we were not going to last, maybe even that he was not a good guy, and he may not have been the greatest for her or to her. So this is ex-girlfriend that I was friends with, after they had already been broken up when I met them. But anyway, cheers. We're about to celebrate 11 years. And anyway, there's other stuff like that. And so what I'm grateful for is that Jacob kept his interest in me close to the vest. He did not ask other people what they thought. I'm so glad, because they would have told him, for whatever their reasons were, run for the hills. But also, nope, she does not like you like that. She put you in the friend zone, and any of those obstacles would have changed the whole course of our life. And God, I believe, designed it for us to be together, and I'm so grateful. So there's another piece, but I know that this is probably now one of my longest things ever. There's another piece that I want to share, but I don't think it's right here. And it's about marriage, and it's about like advice that I give women based on the first parts of our marriage. I mean, I'm already here, right? So when we got married, there was a weird shift for me. Everything else had been, I think, kind of, natural, definitely authentic, real. When we got married, though, old doubts, fears, insecurities started creeping up, and I was determined that I wouldn't be rejected or abandoned the way that I had been in the past, and that had me operating from a different place. And, I probably tried to be perfect, I definitely made it about him the first year and a half of our marriage, and that was wearisome for me, not for him. But I lost myself, and I kind of showed up as less, and that's not what he would have wanted. It's not what he asked for. And so there have been these aha moments and times in our marriage where, really we also have reinvented ourselves. People do change, people mature and grow. And in marriage, the hope is that you grow together and you don't grow apart. And marriage is hard work. It is difficult. It is challenging. It is love, and it is fear, and it is hope, and it is desire, and it is rage. It is being infuriated and being frustrated and being hurt and feeling unseen and feeling not good enough. Sometimes those elements, all those things pop in, and it's also great. And becoming parents, like with each other. And so Jacob became an insta dad when we got married. And then I bore him 2 more children, and we had a miscarriage along the way as well. And, there's deaths in the family, and a lot just of life, getting jobs, changing careers, all the things. And so advice that I would give a woman getting married is make sure you do not lose yourself. Make sure you are yourself. Make sure you love yourself. Make sure that man loves you. And do not get caught up in trying to prove your worth and your value. Know already that you are worthy of respect, positive attention, and affection. You are worthy of fidelity, of his faithfulness, to not even look at another woman. Oh gosh, it's so gross. I remember just like walking in the mall, and there'd be a family, and the guy would be looking like he's right next to his wife and looking, gross. Like gross. Ugh. You are worthy of a man who only has eyes for you and only has a heart for you and chooses you every day, and not goes out in the street but then comes home to you. No, he's not out in the streets at all. He's with you. That's what you deserve. And also, my advice is not to shrink yourself and not to dull your shine, because I did that. And I did that out of fear of rejection. And now, and my friend Shay really helped me with this. Now I say, if I'm too bright, put on your sunglasses. Put on some sunglasses, because I don't have time to dim my light for you. Look away. Oh, I'm too much? Okay, then I'm not for you. So do not dull your shine. Do not dim your light. Do not show up as all of you, because the right person will see you and have the capacity for you. You know, people say, "Oh, you're too sensitive," or "Oh, you're too much." "Oh, you're a lot." Nobody, you're a little, and you're a shot glass, and I'm a friggin' ocean. And so, women, you, those of you who are vast and full and vibrant, you don't need a guy who's a shot glass. You need a guy who's like the earth, and that he can hold your vastness, right? I'm mixing metaphors here. There's this whole thing about, say you got a shot glass, and then you got, I don't know, a tall 8-ounce glass, and that represents you and the other person in a relationship, and you have all this stuff to give, and you're pouring it into that shot glass, and they are overwhelmed. They are drowning. It's your love and your information and your intellect and your everything is too much for them. And when you reverse it, you've got the tall glass. Let's make it a 16-ounce glass, gallon jug, whatever. And this guy's a shot glass, and so he's all full. The glass is all filled up, right, with, let's just say, water, and he pours into you, and he gave you everything he's got, but it's a shot glass. That's not enough. It's not enough. It's not enough love. He would be paired better with another person who's a shot glass. You deserve all. You deserve all that you need and require to feel and be loved based on your needs. So if you are an 8-ounce glass, 16-ounce glass, gallon jug, please don't date a shot glass. And if you're a shot glass, don't date the gallon jug, right? So that's my advice on that note. And yeah, find someone that you can have serious talks with, genuine talks. Find someone you can laugh with and share things that are enjoyable. Find new things that you can do together. And we are not there yet because our kids are young. But I know it's something that I've already had instilled in me, is that along the way, in the different stages of our parenting and our marriage, that we continue to, like, it's not just all about the kids and their things. Very much is part of our life, of course, but continuing to keep us in the forefront and taking care of each other as husband and wife, man and woman, and so that when they do leave the house and you're an empty nester, you've already established who you are as a couple, and you're not having to figure out who you are anymore. Like your identities are already so woven together. So that's something that has been important to me, looking long term. So, yeah. All right. That's it. Thank you for sticking it out, or thank you for pausing and coming back. And thank you for being present with me in this moment, to hear me speak and maybe to laugh alongside of me, and maybe for some inspiration. So, thanks again, and continue to love without limits. Until next time, I am unapologetically yours.